Hello YouTube and welcome back to The Zone. And when I say welcome back, I thought like the single image layout for these videos was getting a little bit stale, so I decided to add a little bit of a space-like design. And watch this, guys. How do you like them apples now? How do you like that? How do you like the background, guys? I want to also get some like opinions on the comments down below, just to let me know what you guys think. So like I said, there's going to be like a 30-minute thing on this, and then we'll take a break, do part 2, and then see where it goes from there. This is just to avoid corrupted files from here on in. So let's get started on another Christian article on Trump. He calls it Pmurt, but it's Trump because it's so obvious. It's not even worth trying to acknowledge what this is. Chris's idiotic interpretation. Also because he refers to him as Trump anyway. And here's a choice quote from Chris. Plus, Trump is just too damn rich and immature. And Trump, spelled backwards, Pmurt, with rhymes with hurt. And he would badly Pmurt this country in office. Few things, again, this sort of links into what I said about Chris when he was talking about politics. And I'm not the biggest Donald Trump fan in the world either. But considering, how much he changed the economy, you cannot deny what Trump has done. But then again, because of COVID-19, and again, you have to understand is that COVID-19 is not Donald Trump's fault. And even though it's kind of like set the economy back, good knows how many years, again, that's not really something that was Trump's fault. You have to understand that. I'm just laying that on the line there because I just want people to understand. Pmurt Trump is a quickerism for billionaire and current United States President Donald Trump, born 14th of June 1946. Really, he's 73. I actually thought Mr. Trump was like at least mid-60s. I didn't realize he was in his mid-70s. He initially pronounced it Pmurt, based on his opinion that the P is silent when the name is said backwards. However, in Pmurt, he pronounced the P, and we will just take a look at that very, very quickly. It should open up. Here it is.
Well, Mr. Trump, or Pmurt, as I like to call you in backwards spelling, because you would hurt this country definitely. I have heard you won.
If you go on to actually Donald Trump's Twitter, you would have him believe that it was the Chinese who hurt the economy more than, than Trump.
Therefore, I hope you... Therefore, now you can feel the pain. I hope you feel this pain, because you're a...
The only pain I feel is this house. I mean, guys, row after row of newspaper because dog only house training dogs is completely optional, and not hoovering your floor is completely optional as well. You know what? It's when you see conditions like these, you begin to like, and I'm not saying at all that you have to have the cleanest house in the world, but there's something at least close to habitable wouldn't be too bad. Because how can you be happy living in a squat like that?
Mean one, Mr. Trump? Now go die! And die again!
He does that while just, dangling his cat like it was a friggin' space hopper. So, yeah, Chris displaying the amount of intelligence and, dignity as you could possibly expect from somebody like Chris. Starting in the latter half of 2016, and I'm saying, things like maturity and all that because, again, Chris was 36, in his mid-30s at this point. Usually people grow out of throwing these tantrums when they're like 8 or 9. Starting in the latter half of 2016, Chris started to become vocal about his intense dislike of Trump on Facebook. In spite of how passionate he feels about Trump, Chris's understanding of contemporary politics continues to be exceptionally poor. On the 8th of November 2016, Chris participated in the US presidential election and voted for Hillary Clinton. Isn't it not like, I don't know about you, but it's sort of like meant to be illegal in the UK to straight up admit over, social media exactly who you're voting for. I think that's how it is in the UK, but just to let you know. Following news that Trump had won the election, Chris reacted by making multiple death threats against him and Vice President Mike Pence, which is actually against the law. Considering my last article on Chris was about the Sonic Booms protest, straight up breaking the law of his own volition is something that Chris has no problem doing on his own. Nobody needs to encourage him to do anything anymore. Just leave him to his own devices and he'll find his way to completely fuck himself over. Right, anyway. Meaning of the name. Well, at least my face ain't fucking orange. Yeah, well, at least, Trump's hair isn't, friggin' green like Chris. That's as much as I can say in Trump's defense. Chris several separate occasions before 2016. The quickism comes from a Facebook comment from the 25th of September, partially quoted above, in which Chris says that Trump spelled backwards is Pmurt, which rhymes with hurt, and that Trump would badly Pmurt the US if elected. Reserving Trump's name has twofold meanings. Firstly, names are particularly sacred to Chris. In his eyes, mocking someone's name will severely degrade them. This article will establish that Chris has enormous disdain for Donald Trump. Secondly, Chris has historically assured that saying something backwards induces subliminal stimuli, which he believes are enormously influential on the psyche and the physical body. Therefore, Chris may believe reversing Trump's name in a negative context might effectively alter his audience's perception of him. Beyond the random access humor, Chris probably thinks his rendition of Trump's name is a serious presidential objection that everyone needs to consider. Chris continued using this backwards name in subsequent Facebook posts and videos. Yeah, Chris would be the only person to do this. I've never seen anybody else do this, I'm just saying. Okay, file Pmurt was just apparently what, Chris technically believes in his own words. Pmurt loud. Okay, I said it. Did it work? No, he's still in this dimension. I think we need to trick him into saying it. Except the guy here looks much better kempt than Chris has ever done. Okay, so opposition to Trump. And we'll start off actually with this image right here. I am Pmurt, America's president and the sinker of the tugboat. I will make America great again and nothing less. Yeah, of course he would be a freaking villain in Chris's comics. And Chris didn't even, friggin' bother to even, draw him as an OC. He just took a picture of him from the internet. And this is apparently Chris, another very choice quote. You have got to be kidding. Trump is most immature, uncouth, and not valid to be president. I think Trump calling anybody immature, let alone most immature, is one of the most ironic things you could possibly ever do. Uncouth and not valid to be president. Trump will only make the country go broke, as Graining did. Is he? Wait, has it? Who exactly is Chris referring to here? Is it like Hair Garing or Hair Groaning or Mac Graining or something like that? I have no idea exactly who this is, but I whatever. And all the money will go to his own debtors and the fat cat rich people, and hardly any for us in the middle class and below. Chris is absolutely not middle class. Also, I think the middle classes have no problem with, with having businesses for their own so they can stay themselves afloat. And below. Not to mention he is anti-LGBTQ, anti-immigrants, he puts down women very bad, and he is an all-around bad person. Now, again, I don't particularly think Donald Trump is the greatest person in the world. and I think he probably knows better, having an anti-LGBT stance is very anti-public opinion. But then again, who am I to say? You know what? He could probably say all of these things, and it'll be very interesting to see what the general consensus of the American population seem to think of him after that. Because you know what? I would actually. I'm not saying I would challenge Donald Trump to say any of those things, but it would have been very interesting all the same if he said all of these things, and then we'll see. Not to mention, Donald Trump does have a very notorious history about, womanizing a lot of people. And I think there was like a great documentary about Donald Trump throughout the 1980s, if you guys want to check that out. And I'm only trying to be fair and impartial, only because I know a lot of my my supporters on my main channel are Donald Trump voters, and many of them come from the south of the United States. It's not really my business because I'm not from the US. I'm just trying to be fair and trying to see it from how I see it. Besides, this isn't really meant to be, well, it is a Donald Trump article, but from Chris, so technically this is meant to be Chris's outlook. So I'm going to try my best to remove myself from any opinion I might have about Trump. Hillary will tax the fat cats and fill the middle classes, and lower and get the country less in debt. And she is pro-LGBTQ and immigrants, and she is more beneficial for everyone in general. What a great generalization right there. And this country is long overdue for a quote-unquote women's touch. You should watch all 3 debates on YouTube. I'll send you links in chronological order. From Chris. Chris has historically never had any real interest in politics. Well, only when it suits him. Combined with his general indifference towards saying anything intellectual in favor of nobler pursuits. It's perplexing that Trump's involvement in politics would concern Chris as much as it does. Speculation has suggested a more personal route to Chris's animosity, as Chris's views on politics effectively begins and ends with himself, as with literally everything else in Chris's life. The true root of his anger lies somewhere in the bramble bush of his confused psyche. For one thing, Chris is highly impressionable, as discussed later on this page. The LGBT blogs and groups he follows on Facebook have a negative opinion of Trump, as they generally do with most right-wing politicians, due to their left-wing biases. Going off on the minimal amount of information he's absorbed from solid blogs, Chris has said that he is afraid of what a Trump presidency could mean for him and his lesbian soul. Always brings it back down to what it means for Chris, not for literally anyone else. This is in addition to the general trend among popular Cs in media at face value. It makes sense that he would readily and eagerly accept these sentiments without a second thought. Chris has shown that he picks his candidates based on who he can identify with more, on account of his gender confusion and dislike of men. Hillary Clinton was far more attractive to him simply because she is a woman. The evidence for this is overwhelming, especially considering that no one compared her with Sarah Palin. This is also consistent with Chris's fondness of George W. Bush and Barack Obama, both of whom he voted for because he liked them personally. The thing about Barack Obama, I think Chris went on record and said that he can identify with Trump because of his struggles as a black man, whilst Chris could struggle with autism, which again, the two aren't really that compatible in the grand scheme of things. But also, what exactly did Chris find like in George Bush? I mention that because I was watching like the first hour of a George Bush documentary that began with September 11th a number of weeks ago. And from the looks of this, you would almost say that George Bush, the quote-unquote war president, was as unfit for... I'm not going to go into details there, but it was on PBS. It was really, really well made, and it showed me a lot of things that I never knew about Mr. Bush, or the war president, as he called himself. Especially salient to this discussion is the mentality behind Chris's brand loyalty. Once Chris picks a side on something, he will defend that side no matter what due to a misplaced sense of rigid devotion. This time, the side he picked has down and out lost. Chris has been legally able to vote since February 24th, 2000. He's never mentioned voting for a losing candidate in a presidential election before. It's possible that his explosive anger is based partially in the fact that his favourite candidate didn't come up on top this time. Chris has provided the following reasons for why he dislikes Trump. It's unclear how many of these are his actual opinions and not just things he's parroting from what he's learned on the internet. As the astute of you will quickly notice, many of the negative qualities he accuses Trump of having are ones that he himself possesses. On character, he is very spiteful. He is an immature brat who mocks everyone. This is just more ticks on the irony scale. He was a one-track tape, repeating himself on pat circa deeds that he was proud of? ? He is hot-headed, impulsive, orange-faced, money-grubbing, double-dealing, immigrant and race offensive, and most offensive on the LGBTQ. He puts down women very badly. His womanizing and raping actions. He is a male. In February 2016, Chris said, "I feel like American circa needs a woman's touch finally after all these years," as a reason for why he wanted Hillary Clinton to become president. On the 20th of November, he stated Trump is of so many typical offensive male stereotypes. He probably was born with 2 damned Y chromosomes instead of the usual XY pair. So, accusing somebody of having Down syndrome. How bold and brave of Chris to say that. Try saying that to somebody who actually does have Down syndrome. He is not valid to be president. Interestingly, both Trump and Chris have been accused of sexual harassment. That is absolutely true. While Trump's allegations have not been proven, Chris has had the claims regarding him confirmed. Actually, you know what? And with that being said, we're going to take a little bit of a break here. All I want to say right now, and I know full well how this will probably go down based on my some of my UK viewers, but Margaret Thatcher was also a woman. But the reason why a lot of people despised her was not because she was a woman. There were plenty of legitimate reasons why we completely spited her. Anybody who knows anything about what I'm talking about will agree. I hope. And with that being said, I will see you guys again in part 2. As you can see, like, the background only lasts for about like 30 minutes. So I'll see you guys again after the break. Okay, now we are back for part 2. Now, the reason why the background sort of like disappeared at the ending of like part 1 is because I had to sell some marrow in order to pay the light bill. I didn't have that much marrow. Fortunately, I found some, and also I found out a feature that lets me just allow to loop the background whenever the timer runs out, because that's how it usually works for when you're using media sources in these videos. So hopefully there won't be really a problem with that, and with that being said, let's just resume the action. On the issues, he wants the immigrants to build their own keep-out wall so he can kick them all out. He has ideas of cutting finances from all of the more important resources that the country needs in communities and feeding the industries from the national debt. And he acted against the immigrants in that topic as well. They have to work too, you know. And what resources are these that apparently Trump is cutting them out? He'll have to tell me, because if Chris wants to be taken, and I've said this before, if you really do want me to take people seriously on the subjects like politics, you have to know, you have to do your research. You can't just, pick and choose what you think is the right and wrong answers here. He will only make the country go broke, as Groening predicted, and all the money will go only to his own debtors and the fat cat rich people, and hardly any for us in the middle class and below. And again, Chris is not middle class. And Hillary will tax the fat cats and fill the middle cats and lower, and the country get less in debt. On issues relevant to Chris, yeah, okay, now this is when you begin to realize exactly how serious Chris really does take the subject of politics, because these are the only things that he actually goes into slightly more detail about than just any of the blasé reasons that he does absolutely no research on, because Chris cannot care less about politics. And here is a picture of Mike Pence that also Chris put into the comic. My name is Mike Pence, America's vice president and eradicator of vice. I will zap all Tom girls to the extreme and nothing less. At least I think that's what Chris did. LGBTQ. Chris is especially paranoid of his belief that Trump and Pence hate the LGBTQ community. Chris has said he does not just despise Trump and Pence, but as a lesbian trans woman and high-functioning autistic person, I fear too that would happen with those two goddamn jerks in the White House. In addition, he said, I fear the loss of my own rights alongside our other LGBTQ community peoples as well. And what rights are these then, Chris? Does being a member of the LGBT give you any more or less rights than anyone else? Also, even though wasn't it true that somebody in Trump's constituency, they shut down the LGBT parts of the White House online immediately when Trump came into office? Or it was something like that. Well, if you feel that strongly about it, well, actually, you know what? Get involved. Talk to a union or something like that and tell Trump exactly what you think about that. However, he has been vague in explaining why any policies that might implement would affect him. Chris does not face discrimination in the workforce because Chris does not work, so he can't be discriminated against in any force whatever, or in society, at least not from being transgender. Over 3 years into their term, Trump and Pence have not yet criminalized the LGBT community and or allow widespread discrimination of them. Exactly, because, that makes your public image look really bad if you do something that stupid. Trump, sure, the Republican Party is mostly anti-LGBT, apart from the Republicans that are actually pro-LGBT, just saying, but they know that doing such a stunt would be a political suicide. Exactly, it's called friggin' common sense. Although he's released conflicting statements on the matter, Trump has expressed some progressive ideas regarding transgender issues. Chris is unaware of this, but still refuses to give Trump any credit, saying he is most offensive to us in the LGBTQ communities, regardless of his transgender bathroom choice statement. In any case, the only anti-LGBT thing Trump has done as president is barring transgender people from the military. It's not like LGBT people would simply poof out of the moment Trump was inaugurated, as Chris assured. Chris also criticized Pence, saying that Pence is just as much anti-LGBTQ and everything else that Trump is, so my feelings are the same with that rat bastard as well, very much. His criticism on Pence, however, is a little more understandable, since has indeed prompted his anti-LGBT policies and is firmly against same-sex marriage, like any average Republican. Maybe it was Mike Pence was the one who took down that part because, well, again, it takes an awful lot, and you've got to make sure you know 100% that somebody is anti-LGBT to, say that about them, because that will ruin anybody's reputation right there. The tugboat. Trump has been critical of welfare in the past and throughout his campaign. Should he find Congress agreeable, one of his aims may be to pass legislation limiting welfare's funding and availability. Chris is dimly cognizant of this and fears that he may end up finding his tugboat reduced or even completely taken away. Well, I think, it's meant to be a thing in the UK where if you actively decide to not find work, they will take it away from you, and this is probably something that should have been, imposed anyway in cases like these. But then again, It could vary differently from state to state, so maybe it's just up to whoever represents the state of Virginia to take the action, any sort of like legal action on this. As of 2020, neither Trump nor Congress have passed any legislation in the matter, and the chance of that happening is very unlikely, considering Congress is currently partly controlled by Trump's opposition. Chris continues to receive the tugboat without any problems. On the 14th of November, he stated, "They would drain money from the SSI, making my mother and I closer to broke." I think that's meant to stand for Social Security Insurance or something like that. Monthly tugboat. Yeah, that's basically what it means. In truth, what makes Chris and Bob closer to broke is themselves. The no frigging duh, of course that was going to happen statement. Given the rapid decline in their finances, he was hoping Hillary Clinton's policies would increase his tugboat revenue, if not bail the Chandlers out entirely. That's just wishful thinking, but what the hell do you expect from Chris? Chris has adamantly refused to budge on his anti-Trump positions, especially the ones where he quoted for Trump's death, which was illegal and he really should have rectified anyway. On the 20th of November, after radio silence following Lizzie the Leslie readers and his Facebook friends criticizing him for his repeated death wishes, he said, "There is nothing nor any amount of time or whatever else that would make it the cold day in the Earth's core to ever make me have even a remote of inkling of a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside of an enigma of any chance or change of feeling or heart of mine about Trump ever." So basically, he's not going to change his mind. Chris's news sources. Okay, now we're about to find out where his sources came from. On Facebook, Chris routinely browses pages of LGBTQ culture, such as Lizzie the Leslie, in the wake of the 2016 election. Many of those pages became inundated with articles written with a clear anti-Trump angle. Chris forms and reinforces his opinions on Trump based on those articles, because he's only looking at one side of the picture, rating many of them angry examples of the pages Chris reacted to can be seen here and here. I'll just check on these very, very quickly, but this is like Chris's court of law, where if you look at literally only one side of an argument, you are going to have only one side of this. Like, that's why we have in courts, we always have, a defendant and basically, well, the defense and the fuck me, I can't remember what it was. Let me just look it up very quickly. I just don't not want to get this wrong, because you know what, I'm trying to make a serious point. Let's see. Don't worry, guys, I'll go with this. Defense legal. Criminal case. The criminal states represented a district attorney as called for the prosecution in civil trials. Legal case. Sorry, guys. I have to do this. Criminal case. Common elements. Whatever. Basically, the accused and the defendees. The accused. The prosecute. It's likely that Chris simply skims headlines or opening paragraphs without taking the time to read the articles. The second example was taken 1 hour after Chris posted it to a Lizzie the Leslie comment section, given that he was also busy with responding to its readers. It is impossible for him to have thoroughly read the articles. That Chris can't be bothered to learn more about the issues he apparently feels so seized with emotion over is implacable of his arrogance, stupidity, and laziness. There's probably more factors fitted in there anyway, like Chris's hypocrisy. but I think we already know that. Chris refuses to even try to understand the issues at hand, and so his understanding of Trump and the American politics system is consequently abysmal. Chris has also cited an episode of The Simpsons, because fucking hell, The Simpsons is what you go to if you want to look for political satire, as one of his major sources for being anti-Trump, which is appropriate considering one of the ways he wastes his time in lieu of acting like a functioning adult, and by believing that, it was The Simpsons that told the truth about the future anyway. Anti-Trump petitions. Chris has signed several online petitions in an effort to prevent Trump from assaulting the presidency. A petition opposing the anti-LGBTQ Russell Amendment. On the July 20th, Donald Trump and Mike Pence are going to enter the White House. They campaigned on a platform of hatred, bigotry, racism, misogyny, and xenophobia. The Russell Amendment would reverse existing non-discrimination protections for 28 million people in the federal contracting workforce. That means employers could fire someone or refuse to give them a job because they have a same-sex partner. No, they would not use birth control, singly, are a single mother. I've worked with single mothers before, and absolutely that is not going to happen. Are transgender, or even simply don't practice the same religion as their employer. Guys, I know fine well I've said this already because I don't live in the US, but I've worked with every single one of those types of people. People who have different religions, people who come from pretty much all walks of life. People who are single parents, people who are gay, people who are transgender, people who are single parents. I've just about worked with every, a lot of people. And when I was talking about when I was working for the Royal Mail just before Christmas, I worked with every single one of those, and they were fucking top-notch people. I see it's ironic giving Chris, because has he actually worked with, people from any different backgrounds? Of course, Chris supported this petition, probably because it disparages Trump and references the transgender community. It's unlikely he actually read or understood its contents. Also, I'm pretty sure Mike Pence and Trump would have found no way, because this would have been against the Constitution anyway. Of course, Chris supported this petition, probably because it disparages Trump and references the transgender community. It's unlikely he actually read or understood its contents, or, like I said, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or anything like that, because those are the sort of things you would generally want to, research into or understand why. There's no way Trump or Pence could have done anything like, apparently, against the Russell Amendment or anything like that. A petition calling on the Electoral College to disregard the election and instill Hillary Clinton into the presidency regardless. Chris also signed this petition in the hopes that on the 19th of December 2016, the Electoral College would ignore the results of the 2016 presidency election since Clinton won the popular vote. This did not happen. Death threats. Predictable, isn't it? Chris's hatred of Trump is so great that he made 4 videos of himself role-playing acts of violence on him with Transformers, My Little Pony, and Lego toys, with 2 of those occurring before the election, including one where he destroyed a Transformers toy, further showing his lack of financial sense. Timeline. On the 9th of November 2016, Chris began making several enraged death threats against the then president-elect. He continued his tirade in the following days, adding Vice President Mike Pence to his death prayers on the 10th of November. In spite of the possibility that it could land him in very serious legal trouble, according to United States Code, a threat against the president is punishable by a fine and/or a maximum of 5 years in prison. Chris has gotten himself into legal trouble multiple times in the past, to the point that he has 6 misdemeanors on his record, with 4 of those stemming from assault crimes. He is also having financial trouble. Only time will tell how far Chris pushes his luck with his repeated calls for Trump and Pence to die. Given that Chris's addresses is public knowledge, the possibility of the Secret Service visiting and interrogating him for his threats and then forcing him to not divulge anything should not be ruled out. And you can see right here, die Trump, die Pence, die. We do not want either of them to get into office, jail, or both of us, is the LGBT community. Yeah. Trump and Pence depicted being murdered in Lego form by Chris, part of a line of his perceived enemies who have been the subject of his voodoo magic revenge fantasies. And just in case you don't believe me, we will look into the video where he does this. Just in case you think I was lying. So apparently this is a short timeline about Chris's very backwards sort of thing about Twitter. I've had problems with reading things like these for a very long time. But just to let you know, these will all be summed up in the video anyway. Chris just blah 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 blah. Chris on his death threats. Chris has attempted to rationalize his constant calls for Trump and Pence's deaths, and to reconcile his violent attitude with him being bothered that he has to resort to death wishing on anyone. After Chris suggested to the readers of Lizzie the Leslie, an LGBTQ Facebook page, to wish death on Trump and Pence, they instead criticized him for saying such stupid things. No surprise there. Even even people of the LGBTQ do not like Chris, which is absolutely no shocker because of Chris's reputation. One person's also because, death threats is not something that, rational people would do. One person said, wishing death on people you don't like doesn't exactly make you look like a better person in comparison. Spot on. Chris replied by saying that with Trump and Pence in office, it would then be difficult to impeach them and get Hillary in. That's not really a response though, but whatever. Chris has shifted on how he wants Trump to die. Upon learning of the election results, he wanted someone to kill Trump with a sniper rifle. The next day, he asked God to do it. Yeah, thinking God is just going to kill somebody on a whim because of some man-child told him to. Days later, he wanted Mike Pence to murder him. He also believed it was possible that Trump would die from old age before Inauguration Day, and that Clinton would not, since men die earlier than women. Inexplicably, Chris also wants science to kill Trump. Men die earlier than women. Well, Chris is completely fucked there then, isn't he? Chris has considered the notion of Trump and Pence going to prison, but has concluded that prison is unlikely for them, how difficult impeachment is. What other option is there? He believes Trump should be jailed for all of his sexual assaults and rape on women. He would prefer for Trump and Pence to simply hand over their democratically elected positions, saying to give the role of president with most civil grace to Hillary Clinton, and since that is most bloody unlikely of Trump ever, I am still most paid to continue having to pray for Trump and Pence's deaths before January of 2017, by someone else's hands or illnesses. Chris further demonstrated his lack of political understanding in a post on the 4th of December, in which he said that Trump should advocate the position and take Pence with him, and let Hillary be president, as it should be very well be. Chris likely has the word advocate confused with abdicate, which is a term he might have heard in a British TV shows. It's a term typically used in reference to a monarchy. Due to his stubbornness, Chris has refused to budge from anti-Pmurt positions, even after Lizzie the Leslie's readers and his Facebook friends criticized him for his repeated death threats. On the 20th of November, he stated, I have given my issues and feelings of Trump some thought. They are justified, followed by saying, as much as I would like to choose to be red-necked and stubborn enough to plead complete ignorance and utter denial of him, and Pence not only on the verge of taking office. There is still too many damn visuals about the bastards that plain further frustrate and upset me. Unfortunately for Chris, he simply forms his opinions via skimming clickbait articles whose authors are inclined to disagree with Trump. Due to his untreated autism, he hasn't attempted to do any research of his own on what Trump and Pence have said. Instead, he opts to live on in willful ignorance, putting no effort into enriching himself with knowledge and getting fanatically emotional about matters he barely understands. It's to the point that he believed death upon Trump and Pence before January of 2017, as this time and point was a necessary evil. When is evil at all necessary is my next question, that I know Chris is never ever going to answer. As of 2020, Chris seems to have left his hatred of Trump and his interest in politics behind him, preferring to occupy himself with his polyamorous marriages and alternate dimensions. Probably for the best. Yeah, definitely. And just before we go, because I made sure to promise this, celebrating the Galapagos Islands. Oh, that's quite nice. Let's just see if we can find it. I know it's probably going to be on his main channel because, you know, along with just about everything else. Let's see here. Feelings about the election results, I think it's called. It shouldn't be that hard to find for, and here it is. Now, I'm not going to say or just do anything about this next part. I just want you guys to just watch this for yourself and think that if you are not convinced by the article, well, tell me if you think this is the appropriate thing to do, say, when you're trying to make a serious point. Also, by the way, I'd just like to point out, 615 comments, and the like to dislike ratio is actually strikingly telling. And, yeah, well, you can go through the comments are going to be something as well, but just to end this for you guys, let's just... I mean, I know fine well exactly what he's going to do and say, but I just want, for the benefit of you guys, to see what he's going to do. So,
I record this video and stating that I am not obligated to accept the current situations, nor do I accept Mr. Trump at all. I have absolutely no respect for Donald Trump. And I uphold the First Amendment, pleading the First Amendment, and I plead the Fifth Amendment as well in the following statements and video. Personal thoughts, responses, and everything. Thank you. 3, 2, 1. Hello, people on the internet. It's Christine Chandler coming to you live from home once again. And, yeah, Trump has been elected. But there's a chance that he will not make it into office. Because of his age, at the very least. Hey, males die before women. Give me a break. Hello everybody on the internet. Right. Trump has been elected. Hopefully he will not be able to make it for the inauguration because of his age. Males die early. So they. Anyway, obviously being a great Hillary supporter, both my mother and I have voted for Hillary. At least our votes counted because she won the Virginia vote. Anywho, aside from that, so yes, I have responded to the election results quite merrily or distraughtly. Right. Setting up rhyme, which Orange Face being pretty much representative of Trump himself, because he is Orange Face. Right. So, everybody, we must pray for Trump's death to happen before January 2017. And then afterwards, but he's been encased, we can have a tombstone, a mock tombstone, and we can pretend that we can have fun dancing on his grave. Of course, that'll be regardless of whether he is buried underground or shelved in a mausoleum. Anyway, yeah, still being patriotic, I do not burn the flag like the other people did in that other state among the 2 states that did riot, which I would have participated in rioting, but right. There is one other thing I'd like to do, which is considered controversial, but I still consider it quite patriotic, to the United States flag. either by illness or by the hands of his own Mike Pence. Die, Trump, die.
What a sight that though. Look, what a sight right there. Just that just looks. Now I take Chris seriously. Now I take him seriously when he's talking about politics. This is the person you want to be defending Hillary's corner. This is the person you want that you expect to take seriously about the very, very difficult subject of politics. This is exactly what you... Yeah, I'm being sarcastic.
Yep. And then... Pence, you are under arrest. You're under arrest. So says this Jane cop. You're going to the jail belonging to the jerk cops and Jane cops. So they got you too, eh? They got me for being a jerk cop, among all the other jerk cops that abuse their badges like crackers. Anyway, don't sit on the toilet. The end. Yep. I feel the same way, even when spelled backwards. Good night.
Yeah, good night as well, because I don't think I need to say anything else, because I think that just about sums everything up. I reckon, and it's not just the thing I said yesterday about the Sonic Arms thing for Sonic Boom, but Chris strikes me as now the sort of person where nobody needs to say or do anything now, and Chris will only continue to make his problems worse, which actually only begs the question that had the trolls never interfered, would Chris have just done this to himself irrespectively? Personally, I think he would, but there's absolutely no way of telling. But if it's any indication, then I certainly had no involvement in what he said about Trump or anything about, assaulting somebody. So, with that being said, I hope you guys have enjoyed this pseudo-new look to Reality Zone. I hope all of you have enjoyed our journey into learning about Chris's extremely flawed opinions on politics. Also, I did an entire article about Chris and politics himself, so if you want a little bit more information, you may want to check that out. Also, if you are interested in US politics in particularly, it would probably be better off to do your own research and to learn if you wanted to have any serious sort of political message by learning the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the implications of the acts of all of the 44 plus presidents we've had. You guys have had, again, not being American and all that. But just also do your research. Don't make death threats, and I think you'll find you will do quite well in the long run. So with all that being said and done, I hope you guys have enjoyed the reading of Trump on the Christian article, and I hope to love you guys again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye for now.